everybody's talking about. So, look, this has been in the works for, I'd say, almost a year. We first reported the Stallion situation almost a year ago here at Michigan Wolverines Live at the Voice of College Football. And now, finally, some semblance of text from an actual leaked version of the forthcoming notice of allegations for Michigan. ESPN obtained it, and I've got some of the highlights for you here. So, according to this draft, and before we actually look at it, remember that this is a draft, and it's very possible that the NCAA is using this as leverage for negotiation to get a settlement. It's very possible that the actual notice, the actual letter, is not as it could be better, it could be worse than what we're hearing here. But the bottom line is Connor Stallions was found. They have 58 counts of essentially the impermissible sign acquisitions that could potentially result in a level 1. There's also Jim Harbaugh, Chris Partridge, Denard Robinson. They're all potentially in line for level 1s and imaginary punishments, because I don't think any of them plan, especially Harbaugh, does not plan to come back to college ever again. So those are called imaginary. And then you've got Sharon Moore, who had 52 text messages with about the Stallion situation, and deleted them. And people delete text messages all the time for all kinds of reasons, including an oh shit moment. What the hell could happen here? It's very possible he had a human reaction of shit, what do I do? And he was quickly able to retrieve every single text message. And folks, if any of those were incriminating, he'd be getting a level 1. So I think he just had a human moment of, oh crap, and they quickly were retrieved. They were handed over to the NCAA. But here's my final point, and then I'm going to let you go with your initial takes, Ferris. But this is the funniest one. Michigan potentially faces a level 1 violation. Well, actually, there's a couple funny ones. But this one here, pattern of non-compliance within the program. Let me give you one example of how you can be non-compliant with the NCAA. Jim Harbaugh's lawyer, Tom Mars, on X, shared some emails publicly where the NCAA asked Tom Mars's firm to send 6,199 emails, which his estimation would have said it would have taken 51 hours to, and actually I think for a lawyer that's being pretty generous. You could have stretched that out even more if you wanted to. Some attorneys do that. But the bottom line is, it would have cost Jim Harbaugh $38,000 in legal fees. And by the way, it's not like this is the only thing that they were doing. They also have other stuff in there. It's a law firm. They have other things that they're working on other than having 24 hours to send almost 6,200 emails. And that counts as non-compliance, because they asked him to send over almost 6,200 emails. That's non-compliance, because they said, look, I don't have the time to do it in the time frame that you had. We need at least until February 20th. So he said, we'll do it, but he said we need time. And they called that non-compliance, according to Tom Mars. So this is the kind of silliness that we're hearing. And that's on top of potential penalties for Instagram verification, potential penalties for $100 check for a golf tournament. Is this how? I mean, you've studied football. You've looked at these. You've looked at these things and the whole body of what's out there. I mean, does this strike you as the biggest scandal in college football history to you? Oh, you're muted, or I can't hear you. One or the other.
I got it. Yeah, that was quite an intro there. Sorry, I was moving things around because the sun is all over the place. So if I'm in the shadow, it's just because the light, whatever. But anyway, the lack. What's the term? Lack of institutional control. Is that the term for?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is a lack of institutional control. There definitely is. And that lack of institutional control is with the NCAA, not with Michigan, with the NCAA. The idea that all these things that are happening behind the scenes are just whenever the NCAA wants, they can just be leaked. Draft documents can be leaked. This is the second time that things have been leaked during this, whatever you want to call it, sign stealing scandal. So, part of this, where is the NCAA accountability? NCAA and ESPN are working together. Maybe I'll just call them NCAA, ESPN altogether, to collude against Michigan. And Michigan, on the other hand, cannot respond because that's how the rules are. You can't respond to an ongoing investigation. So one side can leak we don't know if it's perfect, if it's right, if it's wrong, whatever. And yet the other side can't respond to it because it's an investigation. So, I really believe, I agree. Sam Webb had a sort of panel over the weekend, and one of the points, I didn't agree with every point, but one of the points that I agree with is the idea that there isn't much there. So what do? You win in the court of, you try to win in the court of public opinion by leaking documents. And I think that's, and it's not even official versions of the documents. It's a draft version of the document. So I'm thinking, if the draft version of the document's accurate, it's this big of a hammer, right? And then it becomes smaller with the final version, because my understanding is, the NCAA might say, hey, you did A, B, and C, and also X, Y, and Z. And Michigan could say, hey, you know what? We didn't really do B the way you're saying. Connor Stallions, for example, one example I'll come up with, has nothing to do with us when he's subcontracting with CMU. Why are you blaming us for that? That's a problem with Connor Stallions and CMU. There's no way he can just swing by the bookstore and get the exact uniform of the coaches. And he would be foolish to be on the sidelines when he could be 3 rows up out of TV camera view. It doesn't make your logic doesn't make any sense. That's a CMU issue, not a Michigan issue. So for example, that's one example of where Michigan could come back, and then the bean counters in the NCAA could say, oh yeah, I guess you are right about that. We'll take that one off the list, so to speak, right? So that's, I think, the horse trading that goes on. I will also say there was horse trading that was probably going on 9 months ago. A lot of people said, hey, Michigan, was all full of this stuff where they were going to fight it to the end, and then they backed down when they saw the evidence. Well, the other piece of it is the NCAA/Big Ten also backed down by saying, hey, you guys are 9-0. You guys can keep playing. We're not going to stop you from playing. You can go ahead and keep playing Big Ten games. You can keep playing the Big Ten championship game. And if you keep winning, you can go to the playoffs, and we're not going to stop you. That was sort of part of the deal. A lot of times people talk a big game, then there's a negotiation, and the deal that was, apparently allowed for Michigan to do is, hey, we won't bother you anymore this year if you just give Harbaugh 3 games and stop fighting to get Harbaugh back on the sideline. Michigan administration, in my opinion, agreed to that, but I don't think Harbaugh did at all. I think that was a big friction point. Harbaugh did want to fight it to the end. He wanted to clear his name, so to speak, from his perspective. I'll stop for a second.
Absolutely.
I rambled there, but
yeah, no, and I think that's all great points. It definitely seems very ticky-tack and Colin Cowherd made this point. It seems very ticky-tack when you have Lambos and Porsches in the parking lots, and when you have players getting paid $1 million to come to your school, and schools like Baylor are putting out T-shirts and wearing t-shirts that say "We pay players." And then on the other side, Michigan might get a penalty for getting an Instagram account verified. And for these ticky-tack things, the burger, the various things that we've seen from Burgergate, from Stallions, and it blows my mind. I think it is a witch hunt. I think it's did Connor Stallions go above and beyond what he probably should have? Probably, based on some of the actual evidence that we have. The little bit that we have seen is that, it happened. And he had his name on the damn tickets. And we told you that a year ago. There's really no new information there other than, okay, that's Connor Stallions. How does that translate to everybody? And that's when they started talking about non-compliance. And they started talking about these broader issues which don't tie to the actual evidence of, did Connor Stallions even break a bylaw at all? So they had to go this whole other route with the non-compliance. And we just saw one example of how you can easily get in non-compliance if you don't send over 6,200 emails within 24 hours. So it's a little ridiculous. I would also say, as far as punishment, this person is not a Michigan fan that I'm about to talk about. Pete Thamel is not a Michigan. Pete Thamel is a reporter that's been reporting on this, literally has been helping Ohio State and NCAA leak stuff out. And yet even he is saying he doesn't see any postseason bans or wins. What he sees is a short suspension for Sharon Moore at maximum. So after all this with the hammer, and the hammer's coming for Michigan, and you're going to vacate 36 wins, and you're going to vacate the Natty, and all of these things, Sharon Moore might have to sit out against Southern Wichita State in 2025.
Yeah, okay. A couple things. I do think, I think there's this logic that, hey, Michigan didn't fight in the fall, you talked about lawyers and their bandwidth and all that kind of stuff. They were playing, they're playing Penn State. Then they have the week. Then they've got to go ahead and play Maryland. Then and then they have a week. Then they're playing Ohio State. They're trying to fight in between games, and they came to a resolution that's like, okay, we get to keep playing. Fine, you've got your Harbaugh suspension. Let's just keep playing. We're good with that. I think that's what happened. On the other hand, if the hammer is any bigger than this, or really that emoji that you have there, if the hammer is any bigger than that, then I think Michigan will fight. They will take their time and they will fight, because it's not, there's a time element to this, a bandwidth and time element to this as well. And there's it's not like the NCAA is without risk here. Michigan can bring up defamation. They can talk about lack of institutional control with the NCAA. They can have all kinds of potential counter arguments to this as well. So, this could be end times for the NCAA. I mean, this is the kind of thing that could be one of these landmark things that does them in as well, if Michigan does fight. So I don't think that this is like the all-powerful NCAA, and Michigan just needs to accept whatever they give, and it's going to be the death penalty. It's not going to be the death penalty. It's going to be taking away the championship. It's not going to be that. It's going to be firing Sharon Moore. It's not going to be that. I mean, I'm saying this based on what we see in the draft report, if it's actually real, or some form of that is actually real, right? So I do say that. So I do have that caveat. That's all. So go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot to this, and Jim Harbaugh was just asked, because he was named in this report, that he does not apologize. He said he was raised to never lie, never cheat, never steal. No one's perfect. If you stumble, you apologize and you make it right. Today, I do not apologize. I did not participate, was not aware. nor complicit in said allegations. So for me, it's back to work and attacking with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. So he is sticking by that he had nothing to do with this. And now he actually can speak about it a little bit without fear of Michigan holding him back, because now he's running the Chargers franchise. So he doesn't have the Michigan people that are like telling him don't say anything. Now he can fight back if he wants to and punch back there. I'd also like to mention the premiere of the Sign Stealer documentary is coming out August 27th on Netflix, where Connor Stalions will be speaking out for the first time. And maybe all of this here, was this an intentional leak? We brushed on this topic a few minutes ago, but could this have been an intentional leak, Ferris, where the Sign Stealer documentary is coming out? Connor Stalions is going to be giving his side of the story. He said, if he's the bad guy, then everybody in college football is the bad guy. He said, that overnight his life changed after this. It's going to be very interesting, and keep it to Michigan Wolverines Live, and we'll be reporting on the Sign Stealer documentary. But do you think that this timing had to do with the fact the documentary is coming up?
Yeah, I mean, the NCAA has picked great timing for things, right? to damage Michigan. So, I mean, at least that's the way I look at it. That's my perspective. Some people are saying, hey, what if Michigan leaked all of this? And I would say, why would they have done that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I mean, maybe to get ahead of things, I don't know if some people think this is a Stallion saying, if I did this, here's what it would have been, something like that. My guess, I'm just guessing here, but this is an educated guess. Stallions believed that he found a loophole. He thought he figured out a way to be smarter than he actually was. He told, according to the report, he told some interns about it and said, hey, this is totally kosher what I'm doing, and kind of convinced them. Maybe he also convinced one coach or somebody on the staff or something like that. But that's the extent of to which the NCAA could find anything. I think it's totally reasonable to think that Jim Harbaugh and others did not cooperate because they're just not on good terms with the NCAA, because in good faith, the NCAA did stuff behind their back, and that's Harbaugh's point of view that I would support. I am interested to see the Stallions documentary. I would like to see what he actually has to say. Mm-hmm. We'll see how much new information there is there. There are all kinds of wild things about, Ryan Day's brother, or, other teams doing things, and Michigan has a Pandora's box of things that they could open if needed, of what other teams do. I know, I think you mentioned the Ohio State sign stealer. Sometimes people say, well, look, Connor Stalions was right on the sideline and he was giving signals and, giving the coaches information. That doesn't really prove anything, because sign stealing is legal in college football, and most teams, including Ohio State, have a sign stealer.
Yep.
Right? John, I think you know the name. You might know. I don't know if you have it off the top of your head, but
yeah, I know Ohio State has one.
Somebody watching knows the Ohio.
Someone will put it in chat.
There is a Connor Stalions sign stealer. I'll post it when I get it. So my thoughts on it is I want to watch it. I want to watch it live. I wish there was a way that we could kind of watch it together. I'll just think about it. Maybe we'll figure out a way, and maybe it's on my own personal channel or something. So
yeah. I'd love to see what we can do there, whether it's live tweeting or something to discuss it as a group. That would be cool. And obviously we'll be talking about it on the shows. But to wrap all this up in a bow, here's my final thought. If you've watched this program, you know this already, that I think this. I said this with Mark Rogers, and we discussed what the new governing body could be. But I think it's time look, the NCAA is a great organization for table tennis and for golf and for maybe even basketball. But football, it's time for a new governing body. When you have Lambos in the parking lots, when you have millions of dollars of bags being thrown around, and you're going to come after a school who did try to cooperate, where some schools basically said, go pound sand, we'll see you in court. And then, by the way, a lot of them won, and the NCAA backed off because they're notorious for losing in actual court because a lot of their stuff is not actually, legal in terms of the letter of the law. It's just, this is their bylaws. This is what you have to technically work under. But anytime that shit gets challenged in court, there tends to be settlements or folding. So I think it's time once and for all for a college football commissioner and a governing body. Maybe the Big Ten has some seats, maybe the SEC has some seats, and the others have fewer seats given the representation of each one. Maybe they have, I don't know how it would go, but the bottom line is get a college football commissioner, get Mark Rogers to do it. Get somebody who knows their shit and who isn't, who can actually competently do this and punish fairly when punishment needs to happen. And punish the schools that are paying players and doing all this stuff the same as or worse even, because I think that's way worse than an Instagram verification when everybody's getting Lambos. So like what I think it's time to just come up with a new governing body. I think you're starting to see that with the advisory group that the Big Ten and SEC are putting together, where they do have now that I believe it's called advisory group or some type of group where it's a multi-person member panel. But I think it's time to flip the script and get rid of the NCAA for football. What do you think, Ferris?
Well, my daughter is requesting a live video reaction for the Stallions documentary, so I'm going to have to do it. So we're going to do that. What I will say is, on the one hand, you have a situation where you've got not hamburger bags full of money, but just the hamburgers plus a few other things. Okay, I get it. YouTube or I'm sorry, video conference or something or other, right? That is getting Harbaugh 3 games. On the other hand, these same recruits or recruits like them are getting, $100,000 plus vehicles. It's just not. I mean, it's obsolete. The NCAA is obsolete. We're not talking about hamburger bags full of money. We're talking about the hamburgers, right? So it's just not aligned. This whole thing is not aligned. I agree with you. The other thing I'll say is Tony Petitti. Okay, Tony Petitti does not know the game of college football. I will stand behind that statement because if he did, he would know that multiple teams all the time, every year, all the time, collude with each other against a common opponent. And they do it out in the open. They tell ESPN, hey, I called this coach to get some intel on the next opponent that I'm going to have in the bowl game or whatever. And what does that do? Well, it not only gives them signs, not only are they advanced scouting for each other, they are also giving their own expertise. They're saying, here's some tendencies that you may want to look at, et cetera. So the idea that Tony Petitti said that there was something to the effect that this was a danger to college athletes, that the other team knows signs. He does not really understand the game of college football, because in college football, that happens all the time. Teams are getting intel on each other, bending the rules, if you want to call it that, or it's not even bending the rules. I think they're allowed to do that. The problem for the NCAA is they never defined what an advanced scout is. So they said you can't do advanced in-person scouting, but coaches scouting for each other, I would think that's just as much of an advanced scout as some rando college kid getting paid $100 to video a game for Connor Stallions. So that's why I say, Petiti is not he's a Tony Petiti is a TV guy from Major League Baseball. He does not
there it is.
He does not understand the game of football. He understands how to negotiate contracts, maybe in sports, but that's the extent of his knowledge. So to me, it was a total embarrassment that he got bullied into that position of saying that Michigan was somehow potentially it's going to injure players of an opponents because of this sign stealing thing.
Yeah, I think the whole I think there we could, and we could go on for hours on this, but the bottom line is that there is so much going on in college football with the elite programs where they have signed decoders, they have people watching the All 22 all the time, and I would venture to say there's people going to games. I can't prove that. I'm not making a factual assertion. I'm stating an opinion. This is where I'm not like making a factual claim, but I believe that Michigan isn't the only one doing this, because to me that the act of hiring some buddies to go to games with iPhone footage, that is such a if it's not a staffer, if it's not a full-time staffer, that doesn't break the bylaw. So I don't know. I just think there are varying degrees of this. Michigan just happened to get caught, and we will see probably more in the next 1 to 2 years of other schools and what they're doing in various aspects as well. But with that said, I do want to honor our 2 membership messages and gifts